Imagine you're taking care of a sick child. You check their temperature with a standard thermometer, and the screen pops up with a completely normal 37.0 degrees Celsius. You breathe a huge sigh of relief, right? But what if I told you that specific thermometer has an uncertainty of 3.0 degrees? That means your child's true temperature could actually be 34 degrees, which is dangerously hypothermic, or 40 degrees, which is a severely high fever. Suddenly, the strict rules of scientific measurement aren't just academic, they're literally a matter of life or death. By the end of this explainer, you're going to master the vital difference between accuracy and precision, you'll understand the sometimes tricky rules of significant figures, and you'll learn how to mathematically estimate seemingly impossible numbers right in your head. Let's get into it. First up, accuracy versus precision. Now, you might be thinking, wait, aren't those just the exact same thing? Well, in everyday conversation, maybe, but absolutely not in science. Here's the deal. Accuracy is how close your measurement is to the true, correct value. Precision, on the other hand, is how close your repeated measurements are to each other. Think of a GPS trying to locate a restaurant right at the center of a bullseye. If your GPS dots are spread pretty far apart, but they're all generally near that center target, that is high accuracy but low precision. On the flip side, if those dots are tightly clustered together but they're way off in some random parking lot down the street, that's high precision but terrible accuracy. To do really good science, we need both. Moving right along to measuring uncertainty in life, which kind of begs the question, why are our measurements ever wrong in the first place? Enter uncertainty. Think of uncertainty as the mandatory disclaimer for literally every measurement you take. It is a quantitative measure of how much your values deviate from the expected standard. It's exactly like telling a friend your car has 45,000 miles on it, plus or minus 500 miles. Every single measurement in the universe contains some level of uncertainty. So where does this uncertainty actually come from? There are four main culprits. Number one, limitations of the measuring device itself. Look, a standard ruler only goes down to millimeters. It physically cannot measure anything smaller than that. Number two, the skill of the user. Maybe the person measuring just has bad eyesight. Number three, irregularities in the object. Is that piece of paper you're measuring perfectly, flawlessly straight on all sides? Probably not. And finally, number four, other environmental factors that just kind of mess with the outcome. Let's put this into a real-life scenario using percentages. Say you grab a 5-pound bag of apples at the grocery store, but you happen to know your home scale has an uncertainty of 0.4 pounds. To find the percent uncertainty, you simply divide the uncertainty, so 0.4, by the expected value of 5 and multiply that by 100%. That gives us an 8% uncertainty rate. So your bag is 5 pounds plus or minus 8%. Okay, so the main takeaway so far is that our tools have limits. To communicate those physical limits on paper, we use understanding significant figures. We call them sig figs for short, and the golden rule here is this. The last digit written down is the first digit with uncertainty. If you measure a wooden stick as 36.7 centimeters, you were actually just estimating that 7. Your ruler simply isn't precise enough to know if it's 36.71 or 36.72. You can only claim what your tool can actually measure. Sig figs are basically how we show respect to the limitations of our instruments. Now, wait, hold on. This is actually super important. What about zeros? Are they significant? This trips up students all the time. Zeros that are just acting as placekeepers to locate a decimal point, like the ones in 0.053, are not significant. That number only has two significant figures, the 5 and the 3. But zeros that are trapped right between other numbers, like in 10.053, those absolutely count. That entire number was measured, meaning it has a whopping 5 significant figures. All right, let's level up. Math with significant figures, because the rules actually change when we start calculating things. First up is multiplication and division. Think of this like a strict, unbreakable rule. Step 1, count the sig figs of all your inputs. Step 2, your final result must match the input with the least number of significant figures. For example, say you're calculating the area of a circle. If your radius is 1.2 meters, which is 2 sig figs, your calculated area must be rounded to 2 sig figs, giving you 4.5 square meters. You literally have to ignore that giant 8-digit string of decimals your calculator spits out. Your final answer simply cannot be more precise than your least precise starting number. Now, addition and subtraction? Slightly different game. Here, you find the least precise measurement. meaning the one with the fewest decimal places, and you round your answer to that specific decimal place. Imagine weighing potatoes for a lab experiment. You get 7.56 kilograms on one scale and 13.7 kilograms on another. When you add them up, because 13.7 only goes to the tenths place, it's your weakest link. Your final combined answer must round to the tenths place, giving us 21.3 kilograms. The math always rounds to the weakest link. So we've spent all this time talking about strict precision and exact mathematical rules. Let's completely shift gears to the art of approximation. How exactly do physicists guesstimate massive, seemingly unknowable quantities? Let me pose a problem to you. How tall is a 39-story building in your neighborhood? You don't have a giant tape measure. You're not allowed to look it up on your phone. How do we solve this? Well, we do it by scaling up from known reality. We know from this basic life experience that an average adult human is about 2 meters tall. We can visually estimate that one single story of a building is roughly the height of 2 humans standing on each other's shoulders, so let's call it 4 meters. Therefore, 39 stories multiplied by 4 meters gives us an approximate total height of 156 meters. See? No tape measure required, just totally logical scaling. Let's push this technique even further with something truly massive. What does $1 trillion actually look like? If we took $1 trillion, purely in standard $100 bills, and stacked them evenly across an entire football field, how high would the pile go? A friend of yours guesses maybe 3 inches. Another friend confidently guesses 10 feet. Who's closer? Let's use our approximations to find out. We're going to break this guesstimate down step by step. Step 1. Find the volume of a single $10,000 stack of hundreds. A bill is roughly 3 by 6 inches, and a stack of 100 is about ½ an inch thick. That gives us roughly 9 cubic inches of volume per stack. Step 2. Find the total number of stacks in $1 trillion. That's a staggering 100 million stacks. Step 3. Multiply those together to get the total volume of all that cash, and then just divide it by the total square inch area of our football field. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer power of approximation. The math reveals that the money would stack about 8 feet high across the entire football field. That means your friend who gets 10 feet was actually incredibly close. Approximations are amazing because they give us a real physical grasp on scales that our human brains otherwise find totally impossible to picture. Before we finish up, let's quickly summarize our key takeaways. Accuracy means being correct, precision means being consistent. Significant figures aren't just annoying math homework rules, they genuinely reflect the physical limits of your measuring tools. When calculating, remember, your answer is only ever as precise as your weakest link. And finally, approximations allow us to scale reality to confidently estimate the unknown. Now, I want to leave you with one final practical assignment to try this out on your own. Using the exact approximation techniques we just walked through, how many heartbeats are there in an average human lifetime? Try to calculate it in your head right now using what you know about time and your own resting pulse. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and be sure to check out our next explainer, where we take all these measurement rules and apply them directly to one-dimensional